Hey YouTube, what is going on? It's the one and only Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael, Lee Sanders here of the RCWR show, coming at you with some breaking MMA slash sports entertainment news for this Monday, July 11th, 2016. Hope the week has been going off to a solid start for most of you all, especially now that we are freshly, 48 hours removed from UFC 200, which, by the way, I did cover it right here. It is available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/the RCWR show. Check that out when you get done checking out this breaking news. So, you all have been hearing the rumblings now. If you follow your MMA, you follow UFC in particular. 2 months now, we've been hearing the rumblings. It is now confirmed, signed, sealed, and delivered. The UFC has sold, forget this, $4 billion. Yes, UFC has sold for $4 billion to CBS. We go, as they had released a statement. They basically had said that they have sold to the WME IMG Group. This announcement came just a couple of hours ago. Direct quote: "We've been fortunate over the years to represent UFC and a number of its remarkable athletes," said WME IMG co-CEO Ariel Emanuel and Patrick Wetzel in a press release statement. It's been exciting to watch the organization's incredible growth over the last decade under the leadership of the Ferreira brothers, Dana White, and their dedicated team. We're now committed to pursuing new opportunities for UFC and its talented athletes to ensure the sport's continued growth and success on a global scale. Are you guys with me so far? So the primary owners of the UFC, which was Lorenzo and Frank Ferrara, held, get this, 80% stake under their parent company, Zuffa. Meanwhile, Dana White owned about 9% of the UFC. As y'all know, he ran the day-to-day operations of Zuffa and serves as the UFC's president and CEO. Those are roles that he will continue to maintain following the sale. Meanwhile, the Ferraras brothers and White, it looks like they will each retain a small minority ownership percentage following the sale of this company. So when you break this down, and you look at the fact that when the Ferrettas had came in back in the early 90s and they had purchased the UFC for $2 million at the time, for them to basically take that 2 million and now it's basically sold for 4 billion. I mean, you talk about making a significant gain off of selling. Now, I know we're going to have a lot of people that's going to be looking at this move and they're going to be panicking. They're going to be wondering, like, what exactly does this mean for the UFC? I know some fans, many fans out there are probably going to be looking at this kind of going, like, should we like have any type of concern with this move? And the answer, short answer, no, you don't have to be concerned whatsoever. Deals like this, it goes down all the time. Quite honestly, UFC has grown significantly over the years, and I'm proud to say, even though I wasn't watching the UFC religiously like that, I'm a casual UFC fan. But even I can kind of take that step back and look at its evolution since we were first introduced to it in the early mid late 90s, going all the way up to now. It's an incredible story. It's an incredible journey to just look back on how it started and where it is now. It's a very hot commodity right now. It is a very good booming business right now, especially when you consider for like the longest period of time you had sports entertainment promotions like the WWE that at one point was dominating the satellite cable revenue. And then once they decided, you know what, let's go ahead and let's create our own network. Let's try to see if we can try to keep as much revenue as possible. Because when it's all said and done, and I'm not really sure how many of you are aware of this, but when it comes to your favorite wrestling promotions, sporting events, and all that, they don't get 100% of the profit when they're airing specials on pay-per-view. They've got to break that cut with that respected satellite cable provider. And then you also got to think about the athletes or the performers. They're going to get a bit of a cut of that as well. The company, respectively, overall, that sports entertainment company or what have you, they've got to also get in their cut as well. So it just divides up on like so many levels when you really break it down. So once WWE had kind of like stepped out and tried to do their own thing with the network, it just, I won't say it changed the landscape dramatically, but it definitely had helped out the UFC tremendously, let me tell you, because now they were in a position, the cable satellite providers, that is, were in a position where they had to kind of go, okay, well, we've got this gap. How are we really like gonna plug that? And for a lot of them, it meant, well, if we can have more UFC, if we can have more MMA stuff, let's go ahead and let's do that. UFC, big booming business. They've got the video games. They've got the great sponsorship dealership that they have going on with, you name the sporting goods that's out there, but they've also got the video game revenue that's coming in by teaming up with EA Sports, who many of us are very familiar with if we've played a game called Madden from time to time, or maybe NBA Live, things of that nature. So this financial company, they've already had a little bit of history in representing certain UFC athletes. Ronda Rousey comes to mind just off the break. So there's already a little bit of a repertoire that's already there. I honestly don't see anything bad happening. I think the future for UFC, and I can't stress this enough, the future I think is really good. I actually looked up the respected firms that are going to be having majority ownership in the UFC now, and they have a pretty impressive track record. They've been around for a significant good while. They do fairly good. So I really don't think that there's anything to worry about. I will say this much going forward with regards to key players in the UFC, however, we should have just a little bit of concern, and that is for one, Joe Rogan. Now, I'm not sure how many of you guys may recall this, but a while back, there was an interview that he had gave where he said he really wasn't sure if he was going to continue on with the UFC if the company had sold. Now, as you all know, he's been with the UFC since 1997. And he said at the time, as I believe he conducted this interview, yes, he did. He conducted this interview on the MMA Hour with regards to coming back if the UFC had sold, come back to a new deal. He said, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have a contract that's up in August, so next month, obviously, and I haven't made up my mind. He's basically evaluating it on a daily basis. Now, he did say that there was one significant factor that could play into his decision, and this goes into the fact that UFC executives Lorenzo and Frank Ferrata were in heavy discussions to sell the company. And basically, as far as Joe Rogan was concerned, if the Ferrata brothers decided to sell and they no longer were going to have any type of involvement with the UFC altogether, then that's probably just one huge and critical factor that could play into whether or not he's going to be staying with the company or not. Now, they're still going to be involved in some shape or form, but they're no longer going to be the majority owners. They're still going to have a small percentage in ownership claims that they'll be able to bring in, a little back end revenue and all that. So, honestly, Joe Rogan, I hope he sticks around. I really do, because I will give the devil his due. I know there's some critics out there. Some people don't like Joe Rogan. I know, right? It's like, how can you not like Joe Rogan? But you'd be surprised. There's actually some people that do not like Joe Rogan. Honestly, Joe Rogan is, man, he really makes it so simplistic the way he breaks down those UFC matches. And me just being a casual fan of MMA, I tell you, every single time I check out a UFC event, I can always rest knowing that Joe Rogan is going to put me at ease. It's not going to feel overwhelming. It's not going to feel like it's over my head, like what I'm watching and all that. As he really, for a guy that honestly isn't a MMA fighter, he really kind of breaks it down to you, give you that insight and all that into what's going on. Now, I know he's respectfully trained in MMA and he's worked out and all that, so he knows a thing or two for sure. But I think it would be a critical blow if they were to lose Joe Rogan. What might be UFC's greatest loss? Maybe it could be Bellator's gain. I don't really know. Just throwing that out there. I know some people are like, Bellator, but Bellator, give the company its due. It's really been coming up within recent years, man. Seems like as time progresses, they do more and more. But business deals like this, it happens all the time. Normally, it's not really publicized. I mean, it can be as simple as your favorite restaurant that is around the corner, and you've been going to that restaurant for years and years with your friends, with your family. The food is great, the service is on point, and just one day out of the clear blue, you see that that establishment is now under new management. It's under a new regime. So you're kind of going, what the hell is this about? And in a lot of cases, the staff remains intact, the management remains intact. Sometimes these deals where new management comes into play goes down as a way to try to help keep the business profitable, to try to continue to use every avenue that's out there to maximize in profits. So these type of deals go down all the time. On the flip side to that, there are stories such as a business that's really struggling and they're trying to figure out how to stay afloat, and they acquire the help of financial firm or a new business partner, and however it works out, whatever changes need to be made, sometimes not everything will remain intact. You hope that with those changes a lot of good comes as a result. But I think in the case of what went down here with this UFC sale, fans, I don't think you have anything to worry about. That's going to do it on that note. I definitely would love to hear from you guys, especially you hardcore MMA fans, UFC fans that have been following the product, and get you all's take on this news that had came about. If you have any reservations, any concerns, and you can post your comments down below. Remember, you can follow me as well. I'm on Twitter at the RCWR Show, Facebook Infinity One Productions. That's with an E as an Edward. Spell out one. Infinity One Productions. And for those of you just now joining us, I did do a UFC recap show. It is available on our YouTube channel right now, so go check that out when you guys get a chance. Maybe I'll put up a little annotation click pop up somewhere up here so you guys can check it out. First time, welcome. Love to have you subscribe so you never miss out on all the great content I do for you guys here on a somewhat semi-weekly basis. A lot of good stuff. Poke your head around. You won't be disappointed. That's going to do it. Wishing all y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. See you next go round. Everybody do take care.